Welcome G. Let's start Kotlin tutorial. Today I'm going to talk on coroutines. Uh, Kotlin offer asynchronous programming via coroutines. Okay, so in the last discussion we have discussed what the coroutine and what are the way to write a code. We'll again continue how we can write a code as a run synchronously or sequentially, or you can say concurrent. So whenever we are running any program, by default nature of the program is that let's key you have written one program, okay, one code, statement 1, statement 2, statement 3, statement 4. So they are executed sequentially, first this, then this, then this, then this is the nature of by default program. But we can do asynchronous as well as. So here Kotlin offer those asynchronous way. So let us write some methods that demonstrate whatever you are writing that run in as a sequential. So if you talk about let's key any function like function do some work, select one and uh, println inside dot dot, right. Let's we have another function like a 2. If you invoke work 1 do work 2 whenever you run, okay, this by default you are getting the output like do some work and do some work too. So what are the simplest way Kotlin offer you can run in the asynchronous manner? Okay, so let's assume I this will take like 1 minute time. Let's key delay 1 minute, 1 second delay, and this is the suspending function. So we have to make this is suspended function, and we have let's key another 1 minute delay 1 second, and let's key this is suspending function. Now to invoke the suspending function we need a coroutine context. So we have coroutine context. Now let's measure the time, how many, if you run the measure times in that's millisecond, and whatever the you have written like this inside here well times, and if you print them com computation times time millisecond. Let us, if you run this again, and if you notice that this will take 1 second, another take 1 second, and total look like you are getting the output and 200 millisecond. Let's assume this will return some value like this is int value, let's assume, and this is also let's return some int value here. Let's return, let's key 22, let's this return 1 okay, and you can also return well a value, and you can return well b value, and here you can say uh, a plus b, both are the dollar a plus b, right? So if any function that returns some value, you can also test key how. But overall, by default nature of set of functions, are sequentially and both return 1 1 and 12 13, so you are getting the 2 millisecond times. So can we reduce this to do some work one, do some work two are independent tasks? Can we run asynchronously or concurrently instead of sequential? So here the default nature is the sequential by default. Okay, uh, we have a two suspending function like your function 1 and function 2, please, and define themselves, do something useful information, maybe like kind of a remote service call or any kind of computation. But whenever we are actually invoking just one delay and another one delay second, and if you similarly like delay of 1 second and delay of 1 second millisecond, and if you measure the times like we do normally sequential invocation, because the code is a coroutine like a regular code, but default nature is the sequential. So if you measuring the total times it's take executing the both suspending function like suspended function 1, suspending function 2, and both the value and measure the times like here 2 millisecond, a total value whatever the method returns. So this is the default nature. So next thing come how we can improve the completion times instead of 200 millisecond to less, something this one function and function 2 can do concurrent. Okay, I'll do that is where Kotlin offer the async. Okay, so if you want to set up function run concurrently, then we have to use your async. Condition is that if there are no dependency between the invocations of function 1 and function 2, you want to get answer faster by doing the concurrently. This is where async can help. So if 2 or 3 or 4 functions are invoked independently, and in this case you want to answer faster, the best place to use the concurrently, and Kotlin offer using the async. So conceptually async just like a launch. In the last session we have discussed about the launch is the coroutines which offer you set of code can execute asynchronously. So it starts separate coroutine which is the lightweight threads that work concurrently with all other coroutines. The differences is that launch returns the job. In last session we discussed launch can return the handler, that is the jobs, and through that you can wait or cancel lots of operations you can do on your asynchronous task, and does not carry any resulting value. This is the feature of launch. Launch return your one handler job and does not return any value, while async return the deferred, a lightweight non-blocking feature that represent a promise to provide the result later. So whenever you are invoking async return a deferred object, and that is the promise you later you can get the result value. So how you can get the result value? They have used the dot await method on the deferred value. Okay. So but deferred is also a job, so you can cancel or whatever do. So major differences between your asynchronous and launch is the return value. Asynchronous offer by the deferred object you can get the result value, right? So let us look uh, example and how we can use. So look like this is the example. You don't do anything, whatever your code, whatever your code, the code is same. Only differences here is you are invoking the function 1, function 2 just inside your async block, and now you are getting your deferred object, and from deferred object you want to get the result what this method 1 return, what this function 2 return using the await methods. Okay, so and let us what kind of improvement we are get. Let's give we have a write another set of block. This is the computation the sequence. Sequence time, and let's this is the concurrent time. Let's this is that time one time. So here what you do, you have to measure like here the async block. Just put your code inside your async block. Now similarly async block and put your 2. So whenever you are invoking your function inside your async block, that return a deferred object, and from this is the defer object, this is not a you want to get your result, this method return kind of your primitive int, then you what the result value you have to invoke await dot await methods. This is the only changes you have to do. Now let's look the measure the times key, what the computation time look like. If you run this code, now these two function 1 function 2 not work sequentially but in concurrently. This is the do one. Now let's the measure the time. In sequential times your function 1 take 1 second and another function take 1 second, total 2 second and some processing times. But here you say output is the same but the total computation time will be half. That means this function 1 and function 2 both are work in concurrent. So this is the way, or you can say simplest way you can write the synchronous code. Default nature, if you write any function 1 function 2 default sequential, you want to convert this code into the concurrent, just change whatever the function 1 and function 2 just do inside your async block. Now your result value will come from your await method. So async return your deferred object, and from deferred object you can await method, and you are getting the actual result. If you look the both code look like a same, only difference this is the sequential, this is the concurrent. It is Kotlin offer very concise and simplest way to achieve asynchronous programming. The only condition here is that Please note, this is the function 1 and function 2, both are independently. So why we are invoking one after one? Can start concurrently. Kotlin offer a tool. Tool is the async kind of coroutine. Sometime uh, we have a Kotlin offer some additional property you can configure while using your async block, like here async. So option, they are optional, you can say feature Kotlin offer for a developer. Async can be made lazy. Here in our initial code, whenever you write async block, by default they are going to run in the async mode. But we have options. We can set its property like a start, and what parameter like your computer coroutine start lazy. So in this case, our code uh, kind of you can say uh, only have a handle the have a Java our developer can options when they can start or when they can get. Okay, so when it's result provided by await yes or job start. So here you look same code here, the your asynchronous block, your async block, but between the async block we have set a property to async like a parameter, start parameter. A start parameter we have set a lazy. Okay, so here this is your default one and default two. Here by default they are not going to execute started executing this in the early loading, but when you invoke like one dot start, two dot start, at that times they are going to play as a asynchronous. Let's do let's do like let's hear what do. Here we have options. You can pass here your uh, coroutine, and here say uh, they have options. They have options. Coroutine start can be lazy, automatically, default, yeah, undispatched. These are the some value or custom value you can pass here. So we have options. We can tune your async operator. Okay, so here you can say like dot lazy, similar behavior. Let's key I write here. Now these, if you if you run and look the output and then think what do you mean by lazy here. So just measure the look the output in our computation time too. Okay, let's, you notice computation time to take a 200 millisecond. What do you means? These are by default lazy until developer does not say I want to evaluate this differ object a as a lazy. By default lazy means not started. So how to say no, I want this should be as asynchronous. So you say dot start, and now you look the result. Now when developer want, at that point of time they can start asynchronous code. Now you are getting time to also take 1000 millisecond, means that both function 1 and function 2 are executed concurrently. So these kind of simplest way Kotlin offer to do asynchronous programming using the coroutine. Very simple, very nice, and very easiest way. So here is just like this session. Whenever you want, I want asynchronous programming. Whatever your normal code, whatever a sequential code doing, just wrap inside your async block. Now your code, your functions are running concurrently. Simplest and easiest way Kotlin offer a developer to do asynchronous programming by Kotlin Coroutines. And coroutines have different flavor. Last we discussed launched. Similarly, we have discussed async, the simplest and easiest way to do asynchronous programming. Hope it is useful for you, and you just try to write some simple example and play with this asynchronous facility. And if you want to make more detail, just go to the Kotlin official documentation. They explain each and every concept key, what are the different property, how in which context and scenario we can use async. So please try to use Kotlin coroutine launch and as well as the async tool through which you can achieve asynchronous programming. Again, I would like to say thank you for watching this video.